Here on Marco Island, you might not think water is an issue, but water quality is something we're going to talk about today. My guest is Darrin Palumbo from the City Council. Please tell us, Darrin, about what's going on with water quality.
Well, Mary, thanks for having me back as always. Love doing these with you. And it's a good way to keep the citizens informed. Water is a big issue on the island. And when we talk about water quality, we're talking about the quality in the canals.
Yeah.
Not our potable or drinking water. This was a big issue when I was campaigning.
Sure.
And probably if not for the short-term rentals, this would have been the number one dominating issue of the campaign.
Okay.
So what's going on? Most can agree that there's a challenge in our canals. Where it's hard to agree is what's the remedy? What's the cause?
Okay.
And I tell you, I've had many unbelievable presentations by extremely intelligent people. And it's hard when you sit down with 6 or 7 different experts in the field and then people that are laymen in the field, but very well educated on the subject. And you try to decipher, what do we do as a community? What's the remedy? And I could tell you, as of right now, I do not have a definitive answer.
Yeah.
I'll be, up front. And nor do I think the City Council has an absolute direction. Mm-hmm. But they certainly, those I'm serving with have either been reappointed or serving already. They have a little head start. So I have read, without a doubt, no lie, at least 20 hours worth of water studies and books and different things.
Sure. And
what we can probably agree upon is our canals are not as healthy as they were in years past, but some will say they're a bit healthier now than they were. So our canals are not as healthy as they were maybe decades ago,
okay,
but they're a bit more healthy than they were a few years ago.
Well, that's good to know.
So I think it's probably going to take some more expert study, some workshops, some public input, and we're going to have to try some direction. What that is and how much we spend on it, that's still to be determined.
Sure.
But rest assured, there'll be a good amount of conversations on it with, if I have my way, a tremendous amount of public input.
Well, you bring it up, selling real estate here on Marco Island, where I also live, the further you are away from where it flushes naturally, sure, is where, the concerns can be. So towards the center of the island, at least in that case. But I do think that they have improved from a couple, 3-4 years ago in some of those areas. I don't know what we're doing differently, but we clearly do not have the same problem as some of our fellow communities north of here that have green slime on their waterways.
Well, I'm no expert on this, and I will not fully speak to that
right.
subject. Some of that is the Okeechobee runoff, as we know, that doesn't,
sure,
from what I'm told, doesn't seem to affect us here.
Yeah.
But if you, for those of you that use Google Earth, go out and just take a look at the west coast of Florida is very different than the east coast.
Sure.
Geographically, mangroves, we have a lot less beach. Look at the Keys. If you look at Marco, the way we were basically cut up into canals for profit.
Sure.
You look at Cape Coral, it's very similar. We go deep.
Right.
Into the canal systems. We all know San Marco Road is a dividing line.
Yeah.
So that flush on San Marco Road is the least.
Yeah.
We do have some culverts coming in. If you look on the city website, they'll tell you about where they're going to try to get some better tidal flush under San Marco Road.
Okay.
But if you look at the Keys, which we're compared to a lot, their geography is much different. 1 or 2 canals and you're in open water.
Yeah.
So I think we probably need to look, in my opinion, my layman's opinion, into communities, Port Charlotte, South Gulf Cove, if you that have much
sure,
deeper canal bases where it takes a long time for the debris and the tidal flush, of the proper term, to happen. So you're right. If you're as far back as possible, you're going to be affected more.
Yeah.
You might know better than I do. We're both in real estate. You probably paid a little less for those lots back then. You probably
sure,
spent less
yeah,
due to the commute to the Gulf and due to the fact that you might not experience as much of the tidal flush.
Right.
But either way, everybody needs to be represented fairly, and we do need to take a look at fixing the challenge.
Well, I love that. The whole goal here is to make you aware of what the City Council is looking at, how it can impact you. What can we do as citizens to help this situation? And, Darrin, thank you for giving us some resources that we'll make sure we include below, so that if you're interested in this topic and you'd like to help out and sit on I'm sure that there are.
We have advisory boards, citizen volunteer. The best thing, send an email to the City Council and the City Manager, copy us. We do listen, I promise.
Yeah. So without further ado, we'll say goodbye to you for this time here from Marco Island, our great city councilman, one of many that tirelessly serve our community, and, not a job everyone can do. So Darrin, thank you.
Well put. Thank you for having me.